Hello, everyone. I am Judah Bernard and from the Rise Creating Voice. I am the motivational warrior and the wisdom dialoguer of the Rise Creating Voice. I am excited for this day because we are in season five, and season five is What's Wrong with You? It's the New Year. And today we'll be talking about understanding your worth. What does it mean to understand your worth? We have our guest host on, Stephen Martin, so he can come in and explain some of the things about understanding your worth. On to you, Steve.
Well, hey, Judah, how you doing?
I'm quite well.
All right. How's everyone doing? I just wanted to start this whole show with one very simple phrase, and it's when you understand your worth, you better understand yourself. And the simplest way I can explain that is when you understand to take gratitude in the things in which that you do for yourself, even the little things in life. You truly come to understand who you are as a person, which means you can know who you're progressing to be and who you can inevitably become down the line as well. And that's ultimately what we're trying to help everyone accomplish, as well as ourselves, is try and better understand our worth, so in turn we can better understand ourselves. And I think that's ultimately what most of us want, to find out what really makes us tick, what we're really passionate about, what we love and what we want and what we need. And that better helps us in our pursuit of happiness throughout life. And I think that's what we're all kind of looking for in the end.
So I understand that most people don't understand their worth. And why do you feel that so many people don't really know their worth?
Well, if we had an hour-long show today, I would definitely dive into every aspect of that. So I'll try and keep it to simple bullet points. But
Okay, great.
think of things that we do every day, for
Hmm.
starters. So you get up in the morning and you get ready for your day, whether you fix your bed first or you take a shower and you brush your teeth. A lot of the time when we get ready throughout the day and we put on our moisturizers, some people might like putting on makeup, doing their hair real nice, wearing fancier outfits than most. Whatever your choice might be, although a lot of it is catered to you, a good
Hmm.
healthy amount of that is also catered to what you want to be perceived as, or is what you want to be seen or understood about you. And that might not always be the truth or the case, which is a lot of what that stress can come from. The second thing that a lot of us take advantage of, whether we like it or not, is social media. And social media can be a variety of things. It can be YouTube, it can be Netflix, even, it can be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. TikTok seems to be one of the most popular things in this day and age as well. And what can be a benefit from this thing that is social media is that we can see the world around us, understand how people with less have done more, and inspire ourselves to accomplish great things as a society and as a species. But the downside is a lot of times people end up comparing themselves to people. And a big downside to comparing yourself to other people is you are your own individual. You can't ever replicate exactly the identity of somebody else because that is their identity and you have your own. So ultimately, when you're comparing your body, you're comparing your wealth, you're comparing your health, or you're comparing anything of which that you have in your life to other people, it's not always met with the optimism that you would hope most people should have. And that's that person can do it and I should be able to do it too. A lot of the times it just tends to be envy or excuses, or we tell ourselves they got lucky or they had the right connections or the right people to help them. And in some cases that might be true. But a lot of the times what it comes down to is that we are comparing our self-worth to that of other people. A little bit of feedback there. Um, and doing that on a regular basis, day in, day out. You swipe on your phone, you swipe on your social medias, you look at the news, you go out and about every day, you look at newspaper ads, you see billboards, you watch movies, you read books. A lot of these things cater to what we should normalize and naturalize, and it might not always be healthy to follow the beaten path. Because again, bringing it full circle, we're all our own individuals, and because of that we can't replicate the identity of anyone else entirely. It's important to know that as a human race and as a species we should be in this together and use each other as examples of how to better ourselves, or even in some cases of what not to do.
And I understand that is so correct when we're looking at it, because the one thing in knowing your worth, it reminds me when you know your real value, it's easier to speak up for yourself. But then again, when we speak up for ourselves, some of us get scared because we have been either shied away from speaking up from ourselves, or other things too as well. What do you think in that retrospect, as far as when you know your real value about speaking up for yourself?
Well, just like with comparing yourself to other people, like I said, and how that can be all too easy, based on how you were raised, based on what kind of, life you might have had as a youth, based on what kind of work environment you might have now, your household, your living space, your family relationships, all those things might very well dictate your ability to be what some might call confrontational. And what frustrates me is that in this day and age, it's really hard to understand and articulate the difference between confrontation and conversation. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people to understand, is that just because someone does not agree with you or might not yet see eye to eye with you or understand your point of view, that does not mean that this is a confrontation. It might very well still be a conversation that's worth having. But the problem with people today in this day and age is that because we're starting to learn about things which that are important that have been neglected all throughout history, whether it be race, whether it be sexuality, whether it be a variety of practices that people enjoy openly now that they couldn't 100 years ago. These are things of which that have also made us very sensitive to how people feel, and not recognizing when it's appropriate to feel some type of way or to know something is very difficult. And that's why in this day and age, it's hard for anyone to have a real conversation, because everything almost always leads to confrontation. All it takes is for one person to disagree with another and decide that they don't want to listen anymore and they just want to be heard. And that's when it turns into a confrontation instead of a conversation. A conversation is a two-way avenue. It's the AC and the DC to electrical current. You need both in order for it to function properly. But if the currents conflict and they don't flow like they should, it's going to blow up and it's going to turn into something it shouldn't. And it's not productive. It's not conductive. It doesn't do its job. So the whole point of trying to have these conversations now in this day and age is recognizing that you must absolutely be considerate of other people's feelings and idealisms and viewpoints, but also yourself be more open-minded to the fact of the matter that you might be wrong. And there's good in finding that out, because it's better to find out that you're wrong now than be wrong your whole life about it because you refuse to acknowledge it. And I think ultimately I would rather be right than wrong. That's what's so cool about having a Google Home, is that every once in a while, if I don't know the real answer to something and I want to reaffirm myself that I know the correct answer, I just ask Google real quick and it tells me.
Right.
And I think, again, if conversation and confrontation can be segregated and recognized as two separate things, more people would feel confident that way. But it could be as simple as your mom never, all of our parents said, in my day and age, you're to be seen, not heard. That was something which I was told my entire childhood. You are to be seen, not heard. And
Wow.
then anytime you expressed your emotions or you got upset or frustrated, it was discipline, it was spanking, it was timeouts and the groundings and the whole nine, because traditional parenting for generations before, I mean, it might very well be different now, or at least for a majority, but for me and a lot of my friends growing up, it was their way or the highway as parents. So when it came to expressing yourself, it's not like you see now in this day and age where you got to, you know, someone talking to their 4-year-old, they're like, and how did that make you feel? And, did you want to take a nap? And like none of that happened
Right.
as a youth for me. So just at an early age already, I can give you one example as to why being able to speak up and speak for myself might be more difficult for me than someone in today's day and age who has mommy and daddy coddling them from a very early age. And that's just
Right.
one example. So
Right.
it could be your family, it could be your upbringing, it could be how you were treated in school. If you were bullied like me, I was bullied. I was 5'4", 5'2" in high school. I'm
Hmm.
5'6" now. I haven't grown in a decade. Like, it's one of those things where, for whatever reason, just being short, I was getting picked on all the time. And ultimately, I had to learn to deal with these confrontations and these conflicts And in some cases, even though I might have something to say, people didn't want to hear it because ultimately they had already made their choice. They didn't
Right.
want to listen, they wanted to be heard. And that's something which that can be nurtured and natured into you at a very early age. It might very well be all the way up until the point where you're sitting in a cubicle working for a corporate job and you got a boss who's telling you that you got to feel some type of way. You got management, you got coworkers, you have to consider this, you got to consider HR. It's very hard in any modern era or day and age today to feel confident in speaking your mind without knowing for a fact that in somehow, some way, if you reach enough people, somebody's going to have something to say about it that you might not like. And
Oh,
that's difficult. That's what the internet has done, is that we have a comment section now and anyone can speak their mind. Everyone's an expert. Everyone knows everything. But really, when you ask people in depth as to what they truly believe and to support their arguments with fact, the majority of people know shit. Excuse my language. It's
wow.
unfortunate that most people can't come to terms with being wrong. And that's what's hard about having those conversations today and speaking up for yourself, as it's either conversation or confrontation. But I think it's safe to ask the audience and yourself even, isn't normally confrontation when people don't learn to listen?
And that's something we can ask on that next segment as we transition to the next session in a minute. But I want to get some information out from you because some people look at it, and I look at it like when I start knowing my worth is one that I don't put up with people who was trying to use me. We all get to this predicament where we getting used or feel used. Let's say that. So, what do you have to say about that? About actually knowing your worth and setting those boundaries?
Well, the thing about knowing your worth is recognizing that, just like the give and takes that we've discussed, there's a very healthy understanding for most relationships, whether it be work life, personal life, love life. You have to have a healthy amount of checks and balances. So, what I mean by saying that is that you only have so much to give to begin with. You only have 100% of you, Judah. I only have 100% of me, Stephen. You guys, as an audience, have only 100% of who you are as a person, which means whatever energies, whatever, love or affection or care you have for other people, that's limited to what you are available to give.
Mm-hmm.
So after a certain point, you have to recognize when you are giving a healthy amount of love, affection, and care to yourself as well as other people. And when it starts to get to the point where you are giving more than you are receiving, just like a battery in a phone, after a while, you're going to drain the battery down to the very end until it dies. And you don't want to get to the point where your phone dies and then you have to recharge it, because while it's plugged in and it's off and it's charging and you're waiting for it to have enough power to turn back on, the phone's pretty much useless, isn't it? And that's pretty much depression for you in a general. That's what depression does to most of us, is it makes us dang near useless. And that's kind of the self-worth aspect, is knowing, when am I allowing this to go too far, and when am I allowing people to take more than they're giving. And with checks and balances, you have to deposit into a bank account and make sure that you're putting enough deposits so that when you take out withdrawals, there's always cash left over. You don't want to go into the negative. You don't want to go into zero cash, period. So if you're constantly withdrawing money from your ATM with money that you don't have, inevitably you're going to go negative. Inevitably you're going to go under. So the same thing applies to your energies in life. If you keep withdrawing from your energies and you're not putting back into yourself and knowing your worth, and doing the things that matter to you and help you live a better, happier life in order to keep those energies up, then ultimately you're going to go in the negative. You yourself will be negative. So it's important to recognize the withdrawals and the deposits that you put in your life, whether it's you personally or the people that you keep around you. And knowing your worth is a part of that.
So definitely, we want to make sure that we do not go into the negatives with our energy, because guess what? When you go to the negative, that brings so much anxiety, depression, and other things. But we're going to do a small little music break while we gather together. And just in case our listeners want to ask questions and things like that, make sure you start putting those questions in the chat box as we go to our small little break. but I definitely want to produce and put on there Sunday. We have Sunday Jewels on the Rise every Sunday, and that's Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that will be on Instagram Live. And our co-host for that show, and that's every Sunday, is Jules Mentoring LLC, and you can look them up on Instagram, and that's Jules Mentoring LLC, and the co-host name is LaRonda, and we're about to go to a music break. Great, great, great. I hope you enjoyed that music break. For those who have comments or questions, go ahead and start dropping them in the box as I bring our co-host back on, Stephen Martin. And we're talking about understanding your worth. And he's dropped some good gems and nuggets on us, and very excited about the next segment about what he's about to talk about. And one thing I like to add to that is we need to give ourselves the respect we deserve. I know you touched on many points and things like that. So, what are some of the things that you think that is right? Quick to as well.
Well, give me 1 sec here. We're going to answer James' questions first, and I'm going to have you re-ask that question just because I'm not too sure
Are you there,
I'm going to answer it
Stephen?
correct. Yeah,
And
can you hear
even
me?
with that, we have to understand that when you understand that your body is a temple and you treat it like one, that'll be a great one too. And also remember, if you have any questions, anything that you have, or conversation that you need to drop, please drop it in the chat box, and also drop those hearts too as well. When you
And
learn how
ready?
to say no, that's another one. When you don't feel the need to compare yourself to other people. Also, when you attract high quality friends who you want to succeed and be happy, and not just hang around people for your own comfort, for their own comfort. And that's a big one that we always do. We hang around people for their comfort. One thing that I've always tell people, because they say, Judah, you bring me so much joy when you come around and things like that. And I started thinking about it. I was like, huh. Well, if you're paying Steve Harvey and all those other comedians when you go to their show just to make you laugh, why don't you pay me too as well? So is it about our comfort or their comfort? And that's just one thing I thought about, because that drains your energy too as well. You don't need to, like Steven said, you don't need to compare yourself to other people. Also, you attract high quality friends who want you to succeed and be happy. You know that it's okay to express your feelings, because no one is perfect all the time. And we know that from the jump. No one is perfect all the time. And you ain't afraid to let your vulnerability show. How many of us have been very vulnerable? Very, very vulnerable. You don't like you and don't feel like a victim anymore, and know that everything in your life is there to serve you, not the other way around. Have we ever got caught up in just serving people? And we feel so tired by it. Maybe And understand your joy overflows into every area of your life. Have you ever thought about that? Your joy overflows into every area of your life. And when you know your own worth, you attract the right people who want to lift you up in life. How many people have been in the audience and just remember how many people have actually just came up on and just like know that those people are not right in your life or it was just too much going on. So we must understand that in what we're saying right now, that number one is we need to understand what is our worth. And do we want to be able to say that our worth bank has a negative balance? How many people want to say that? That your worth has a negative balance. So, how are we depositing back into our worth? How are we depositing? Sometimes we have to step out and not be afraid of change. We need to forgive ourselves for past mistakes because everyone makes mistakes. You know, nothing has power over you unless you give it power. So the only thing in your life with any control is how you choose to think and feel about things. And that's the biggest problem that we feel and we do different things and don't understand why we do that. So we must understand from that that's something totally different too as well. So we need to stop taking things so personally because you know that everyone is fighting their own battles in life and might not always be thinking about you. Let me repeat that we should don't take things personally because we all know that everyone is fighting their own battles. How many of us are not fighting battles each day? So we got to know that in those fighting those battles in life, everybody might not think about you personally. So we got to understand that too as well. And I always tell people, your self-talk has more positive than negative words. How many people say you can't or I cannot or I will not? I won't do this. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. So how about I will do this? I'm going to make sure that I do this. Instead of turning into the negative, how can we also turn into the positives too as well? So I know we're back at the 23 mark break, and hopefully Stevie can come back on because I don't know whether the mic is muted or what, but we're going to go
Can you hear
ahead
me?
and start with our mindfulness exercise. So are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Are we ready? Let's start into it. So we want to take a comfortable seated position and we want you to listen to the script. Let yourself settle into your body and your mind. Try to let go of thoughts and clear the mind of its usual considerations. Focus your attention first to the room you're sitting in. Picture yourself from the outside as you sit exactly as an outsider might. Next, shift your attention inwards into your skin. Try and feel your skin as you are sitting in the chair. Try to envision the shape that your skin is making as you sit in contact with the chair, shifting your awareness inward, any physical sensations you are experiencing. As you feel each one, acknowledge it, its existence, before letting your own consciousness let go of it and move on naturally. If you find any emotions coming up, recognize them and create a space for them. Then bring your attention back to your observing self. Your feelings and thoughts are there, but you are separate from them, noticing them. This is the observer you. How did that feel for everyone? Let's come back. Let's come back. We are down to the 2 minute mark, and I'm hoping that Stephen can come unmuted. I don't know how he's still unmuted. I
Can
can't
you
hear
hear
him,
me?
but hopefully you guys can hear me. What we're doing is we're going to definitely go to the next segment, and we'd like to thank you for joining us on tonight. I'm still trying to get Stephen unmuted, but hey, we got to keep going. It says I'm user success. So sometimes we have um, things
Hello,
with
hello,
technology, but we're going to keep moving forward. One thing is we
hello,
want to say thank you for joining us with understanding your worth. Make sure you like, subscribe, and
hello.
put the notifications on because basically we're here every Tuesday night here at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We didn't want to take up all your time and things like that. We try to just stay on for 30 minutes. And just for housekeeping rules, always remember drop that heart, like, subscribe, share. And also on Sundays, we have Sunday Jewels on the Rise every Sunday, and that's Sundays at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is actually on Instagram Live. And the co host is Jules Mentoring LLC. So, once again, we'll leave you with the word of tell a friend, tell a spouse, tell your frenemy. Heck, tell everyone. We'll see you on the next podcast. And also, we'll see you later. Understanding your worth is more important. And don't be in that negative balance. Start putting positive things in your life every day. And let's have a great night.